Hello, everyone, and welcome to Police Off the Cuff, Real Crime Stories. I'm your host, retired NYPD Sergeant Bill Cannon, a 27-year veteran of the NYPD. A lot going on in Kohberger. Enough delay, Judge Hippler. Let's get this case going to trial. The defense has been filing what can only be described as the four corners offense that North Carolina used to run, the stall. Four corners, they're stalling. It's been a year and a half. Let's get this case going. They asked for a stay, or what would they call it, a continuance. There was papers filed for that. And then they subpoenaed witnesses, another device to stall. They've also claimed there's potentially another suspect based on all of those tips, the 10,000 tips that the government got that was turned over to Ann Taylor in the defense. But at this 11th hour, all of a sudden, they need more time. A year and a half. They need more time. Judge Hippler, no. Keep it going. Keep this case going and have it start on August 11th when it's supposed to start. Keep the whole process moving. Do not get bogged down with these allegations. If they really had all this information, why did they wait till the 11th hour to present it? 2.5 years later, right? They have witnesses now. They have alibis now. They have a second suspect now. I think not. I do not believe it. So Judge Hippler, keep this case moving forward, because although we want to look out for the rights of Bryan Kohbeerger, we also want to look out for the rights of the deceased and the families of the deceased, who should count in this case, right? These are the people that really count, Zana Canodal, Ethan Chapin, Kaylee Gonsalves, and Madison Mogan. These are the people that we really care the most about. So we're going to talk about this today. So folks, hold on to your seats, hold on to your hats, hold on to your loved ones. We're about to enter true crime from a police perspective. We're about to enter the off-the-cuff zone, the police off-the-cuff zone. There has to be some common sense.
They were the ones who called 911 to get him help, and now they're calling for change.
And now a word from our sponsor. BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for all your sports betting action. With baseball season in full swing, we're deep into the NBA and NHL finals, and BetOnline has more ways to stay in on the action with the latest odds, news, and scores, even live in-game betting while the games are being played. We keep the dog days of summer rolling with the largest selection of odds on everything, with updated odds on Major League Baseball, UFC, and boxing, to tennis and NFL futures. BetOnline remains the best online source for all your sports wagering info. In between games, head over to the BetOnline Casino with all the top Vegas-style games, including poker and live casino. BetOnline, the game starts here. I'm going to bring in our esteemed guest right away, Professor Albertus Magnus, retired NYPD Sergeant, attorney. Welcome to the show, Professor Mike Geary. Welcome, Mike.
Hey, Bill. Good afternoon. Good to see you.
Mike, you can hear it in my voice. I'm a little annoyed at this, and I think that a year and a half is a long enough time for any defense team to prepare for a case, even a quadruple murder that's a death penalty case. And all I see right now is what I call the stall.
Now, Bill, we know that there's a lot of information, a lot of evidence that was gathered against Bryan Kohbeerger by the Moscow police, the Idaho State Police, and the FBI. And that was given at different times. So it didn't all come in one big package or with a ribbon on it. Came in dribs and drabs. But it's up to her, Ann Taylor, as the defense attorney, to manage that incoming evidence and to parse it out to people on her staff. If she feels overwhelmed, she could always ask for assistance. So far, she hasn't done that, and she admits that she is a person that has to look over every single thing, and that's a disservice to Bryan because he has a right to a speedy trial, even though he's waived his right. It'll be in August, almost 3 full years. It'll be like 2 2/3 years. So Hippler is faced with the decision: do I finally get this moving, as we already have agreed to, August 11th, or do we push it off another 90 days or 180 days? What good is that going to do? So he's a little angry at this, at Ann Taylor. They're going to have one single final pre-trial, hearing, and that's it. But if I'm a gambling man, my money's on Hippler going with August 11th, and let the chips fall where they may.
Mike, I 100% agree with you. So far, we have the continuance. Is it all about the death penalty? Is that why they wanted to stall, to prepare for the death penalty? Alternate suspect. I mean, really, you wait till the 11th hour to bring up this alternate suspect. And I also want to mention, Mike, many people in the chat, many what we call pro-burgers, people that are backing Bryan Kohbeerger, they say, how about the other 3 samples of DNA? If there really are 3 other unidentified samples of DNA, I would say that it is the state's job to identify them, identify who they belong to. And if you can't, at least present the evidence that we were unable to find out who these DNA samples. Remember, there was some from a glove, some on a banister. I don't even know if they're all correct, if they're all really actually, and the cost to do that by using investigative genetic genealogy is considerable. But this is a death penalty case, and I think the state has to do that. It's almost like elimination fingerprints. This is elimination DNA, Mike.
Yeah, Bill, obviously Ann Taylor knows what she's facing. It's an uphill battle. There's a whole lot of information, a whole lot of evidence gathered against him. The DNA on the knife sheath is a huge thing, and she has to overcome that. But the idea that there's 2 drops of blood somewhere in that house on a banister, and there's DNA on a glove, I think that was found actually outside. The prosecution, Bill Thompson, he has to deal with that, and then she could use that unidentified DNA to attack, the prosecution's case. That is perfectly within her right. However, we do understand that especially in homes where fingerprints and DNA could last quite a long period of time, that DNA, that drop of blood, might have been there 6 months earlier. We don't know, but she can attack the DNA evidence. She certainly can, but to keep pushing off this trial, and I think what she's doing is a stall tactic in order to try to maybe wear out the victims to the point where they just tell the prosecutor, Bill Thompson, look, please just end this. We can't take this anymore. I think that's what she's trying to do. I think she's failing miserably in it, but she's doing the best she can under the circumstances. This case is a rock solid case against Kohberger.
Mike, just today I saw something that the defense wanted to call someone a roommate just with the initials BF. We all know that's Bethany Funk. It's not a secret anymore. In the beginning, they tried to keep Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funks. They had tried to keep their identity secret. It's no longer a secret. So, but I wonder, it's a secret hearing. What is this hearing about? And again, it's gag ordered. It's secret, just between the prosecution of defense. What would you think it might be about?
Bill, if I had to place a bet, I think it has to deal with the 8-hour lapse between the time that they think the crimes occurred, somewhere like 4:15, 4:20 in the morning, and the call to 911. Because in that time, there was texting going on in the very beginning between Dylan Mortensen and Bethany Funk. And Bethany finally said, run down to my room. So I think basically the prosecution is, and everybody knows about Dylan Mortensen seeing a man about 6 feet tall with the bushy eyebrows and maybe some sort of balaclava over his face. But Bethany Funk, her statements maybe have not been examined very closely. So I think there may be a question as to whether or not she may be called. And I think their judge wants to just see in a closed hearing what she can actually possibly add or detract from the prosecution or the defense, because she may have to talk about what she may have heard herself at 4 o'clock in the morning and the reasons for her texting. And I don't think it's a huge deal, but I think it just, he wants to, I think Judge Hippler wants to see whether she is reliable enough and has something actually that's not double hearsay, to add to the prosecution's case or the defense's case.
It also, in my thoughts, could be a warm up for the defense to see how far they can go in beating up this young
Yes.
girl, and
Yes.
how resilient she may be on the stand or lack thereof, and they'll test it without being in front of a jury. Because
Exactly.
if you beat up a 21-year-old, a 22-year-old girl in front of the jury, and the jury may not like that,
That's right.
and they may hold it against the defense if they try to beat up this young crime victim, because she is a victim, even though she is a potential witness, Mike.
Bill, I think you're right. As soon as you mentioned it, I was like, you're darn right. They're going to get a free shot at her just to see what she has to say. She might be really good witness on the stand, but may have not just a little bit to say, maybe nothing really that important, or she may be all over the place and she may not really remember anything. She may have a poor affect when she's speaking. But you're right. It gives the prosecution and the defense a run at her, and just to see how she reacts under a little bit of pressure. It's going to be in an empty courtroom. It'll just be the judge and just a few people, and that's it. But it gives them an idea. What can we expect from this witness? And I think you're right. That's probably what it is. It's a free shot at her just to see how she acts under a little bit of pressure.
Well, I mean, obviously, I don't think the prosecution wants to beat her up. I think the prosecution wants to treat her with kid gloves. It's the defense that may want to beat her up. And especially, Bethany Funk's not the witness that said Kohberger has these bushy eyebrows. That was Dylan Mortensen. We all remember this selfie in his phone with those bushy eyebrows, which is an important piece of evidence, even though folks may think, oh, what the hell does that mean? Lots of people have bushy eyebrows. Yeah, but lots of people are accused of a quadruple murder and have bushy eyebrows, Let me play this, Mike, and then we'll get back to this topic.
First at 4, the prosecution in the Moscow murders case is responding to the defense, who is asking the court to postpone the upcoming trial against Bryan Kohbeerger. He's the man accused of killing 4 University of Idaho students in their off-campus home in November 2022. The defense says that their investigation is incomplete and they need more time. They also say that the amount of pretrial publicity could impact jury selection. In its response, the state is calling it an 11th hour motion. They add that the trial was scheduled in October 2024 and the defense complied with those dates. They also say that the defense has not shown good cause to postpone the trial. Jury selection is set to begin in late July, with the trial scheduled to start in August here in Ada County. Also, first at 4 o'clock for you, one of the 2 surviving roommates has been subpoenaed by a judge to attend a hearing. The roommate, who we will only identify as BF, now lives in the state of Nevada. She was sent that subpoena last month, requiring her to attend that hearing. It's unclear specifically what that hearing entails or exactly what it'll be, but we will report back when that information becomes available.
So there it is, Mike. They want to interview Bethany Funk via subpoena, and clearly it's Judge Hippler is the judge here. But what is the subject? What is the topic? What will the defense? Is this what attorneys frequently say as a fishing expedition? When they want to say they're just searching for information and they're going to ask questions that may not even be relevant, just to dig and to see during this fishing expedition what Bethany Funk may know.
I think you're right, Bill, because we know that she was texting with Dylan Mortensen, and she finally said, "Come run down to my room," and they locked the door and they stayed there. I think the defense just wants to see what was her state of mind exactly, because she's a little bit on the periphery, even though she's there. But because of what we know so far, I think it is a little bit of a fishing expedition, just to see maybe she could say things that may negate Dylan Mortensen's version, or in the eyes of the jury, just change a few of the facts. So I think it is a fishing expedition. And if the defense sees a couple of weaknesses and a couple of inconsistencies between her account of what happened and Dylan Mortenson's account of what happened, that will give Ann Taylor maybe the ability to say, maybe not even to beat up on her, but at trial to say, look, even two young ladies hearing and thinking similar things about what the heck is going on have vastly different recollections of what went on. So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, can we really know what went on? And who would really know what went on but these two ladies? And if they can't agree on what went on, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, that is reasonable doubt, that sort of thing.
But I really just think, at 2.5 years in, that Ann Taylor is really pushing the envelope. Defense filings have highlighted widespread news coverage as well as social media discussions involving thousands of web sleuths and true crime followers. More recently, Taylor is arguing that that's Ann Taylor, two major media projects, a Dateline episode, and a forthcoming book from best-selling crime author James Patterson and crime reporter Vicky Ward should justify another postponement of her client's trial in the deaths of 4 University of Idaho students. In particular, she claims the May 9th Dateline episode contains damning material that could put Kohberger's right to a fair trial at risk. The program includes details and materials, including video footage, cell phone records, and photographs of documents that are not publicly available through official channels, she wrote in a motion to continue filed on May 20th. The show repeatedly emphasizes the non-public nature of this information, stating it was obtained from unnamed sources who are close to the investigation and that the materials were obtained exclusively by Dateline. Some of it, she claims, will be inadmissible at trial. So she's using every trick in the book to stall this case. And you know something? Was it unfortunate that Dateline got a leak from someone, and presumably from the law enforcement side, from the prosecution side, and they got a lot of insider information that was previously unknown? However, I still think you can find 12 jurors and 8 alternates that can view this case with an open mind and give Bryan Kohberger a fair trial. Mike.
You're right. He does not deserve, or nor does the Constitution guarantee, a perfect trial. You get, in America, a fair trial. And everyone knows, and it's always been that way, is you pick 12 people who have at least an open mind and are willing to listen to and consider only the information presented at court by the prosecution and defense and make up their mind based solely on what they hear and see in court. I think you get 12 people very easily. Look, we deal in this sort of, communications era. 50 years ago, we didn't deal with this sort of stuff, but we dealt with radio and we dealt with television and newspapers and things like that. People would still argue about those sort of things. Just talk about the Sam Shepard case from way back in the early 60s, Dr. Sam Shepard. People were opining about that. She got a change of venue from Ada County to Latah County, from Latah County to Ada County. She got several postponements already. She agreed to this. And the Judge Hippler is looking at her, probably saying, look, if I give you 90 days, is that really going to change the jury pool? People are going to forget this case? No. He has to also think not only about what she wants, but also what he has to do. He has ethical obligation to conduct a trial that is fair and to have a person not judged guilty yet, sitting behind bars. By the time they get to the trial, it will be 2 years and like 9 months. That's on Judge Hippler. He has to guarantee a fair trial to Bryan Kohberger. So I'm not so sure that she hasn't pushed this as far as she can. I think if she's come to the end, I think Hippler's going to say, we're going to trial. You can have whatever appeals you want later, but we will have this trial August 11th, and you better be ready that Monday morning at 9:00.
100%. And let's not forget, one of the things that the prosecution granted, or I shouldn't say the prosecution, I should say the court, the judge, and this was Judge John Judge, who was the
Right.
original judge here from Latah County in Moscow, Idaho. He granted a change of venue.
That's right.
And that's a huge thing. That's not seen lightly. That's not done as a matter of course. So the defense got that. They got their change of venue. That should make them happy. Yet they're not. They're stalling. They're still stalling. And as Mike and I said, and I will take a beating from the pro-burger community every day of the week and twice on Sunday. There is a ton of evidence in this case. A ton. Tractor trailers full. I like to say that. I like to use that example. But the biggest thing, as they say, the smoking gun piece of evidence is the DNA on the button of the knife sheath. Matt Murphy, the famous LA County district attorney, he claimed that this case, on several interviews, the evidence in this case is overwhelming. So should I listen to the content creators on YouTube that have no experience in the criminal justice system, or should I listen to Matt Murphy, who was an undefeated homicide prosecutor from California, who says the evidence in this case is overwhelming? And I think I'll take Matt Murphy's advice.
Yeah, Bill, when we had him on our show, he's talked about that. He was a fabulous prosecutor. He's done 100 homicide cases. He's done well over 100 homicide cases, and he's done death penalty cases. And he knows the kinds of evidence and the type of evidence that is gathered in these kind of cases. So he's looked at the Kohberger case, and he can pretty much tell you 90% with probably 90% accuracy what they have on him and what they can and how much of it they have on him. So he knows. He's not talking out of his hat. He's somebody who's been there. He can talk the talk because he's walked the walk. He knows what he's doing.
And I think there's some erroneous information out there relative to the pinging of the cell phone during this case, because the defense put on a whole show, but the prosecution didn't put on their show in regards to that same evidence. So I think it'll be a little bit different when this case goes live and it goes to the real, game time. When it's game time, I think there'll be a lot of different information. And, we talk about the white Hyundai. We talk about the fact that Kohberger had been seen or his phone pinged 23 times in the vicinity of 1122 King Road. Of course, the DNA. Of course, so many other bits of circumstantial evidence that the defense at this point is trying to make up alibis. Like, Kohberger likes to drive around in the middle of the night. And yes, does that make him guilty of this? No, it does not. But anyone with a clear mind, do you buy that bullshit alibi? I sure don't.
It took a while for them to even come up with that screwy looking alibi because people were waiting and waiting and waiting, and they actually pushed back the deadline before they actually offered that up as an alibi. And then they wanted to talk at one point and say that an alibi will be found among the inconsistencies of the prosecution witnesses. And the judge is like, no. An alibi in Idaho is defined as a human being who the police and the prosecutor can speak to, that you, Ms. Defense Attorney, say can verify his actual whereabouts, time, place, and who they were with. So she's tried every which way to kind of twist the English language of the word alibi witness, and it didn't work, and it's not going to work here. The second suspect theory, to me, I think that's a little bit ridiculous too. You're coming in this late. It's like noon is going to happen, and we're like midnight's going to happen. We're like at 11:59 and 59 seconds. Okay, now you're coming up with this? I don't think so. You have an obligation to run your office professionally. And maybe Ann Taylor may be good in court, but maybe she's not a very good administrator working in her office. Maybe she just doesn't know how to, dole out the work. But this is ridiculous. And, it's not helping her client. She's trying, but it's really not going to help her client in the long run whatsoever.
You know, and the other thing is, I know James Patterson, world famous author. He's a has, you know, I don't know how many New York Times bestsellers he has. He's loaded. He sold 40, 50, 60, 100 million books. I don't even know exactly. His book is coming out pretty soon. Do you think they won't be able to find jurors that didn't read it? I'm sure they will.
Sure.
But if I was a judge on this case, would I rather this book not be coming out at this time? Yes, of course. But you can't stop in the freedom of speech world of this country an author writing a book about this case. And sure enough, you're going to see that he probably got a lot of leaked information that we don't know where he got it from. And maybe he won't tell who his source was. He won't tell who his source was, but there's going to be some bitching about that from the defense and from Judge Hippler. But guess what? There's not a damn thing they can do about it. And then, of course, Howard Bloom's book, which came out, you know, he's been writing articles for Airmail magazine besides that book. So you can't, there's been so much written, and the number one place where all the information and a lot of wrong information is right here on YouTube. Lots of information. I'm not criticizing anyone, because sometimes content creators on YouTube, they do discover things that no one found out about, and it's true. But this case, from my police perspective, there is, and Matt Murphy from California, there's overwhelming evidence, Mike.
Yeah, Bill, there's so much out there that we don't even know about. And what we do know, what has come very quick, very soon, the last couple of months, we know because of the motions that Ann Taylor made, because the prosecution had to answer them and revealed some of the information that they had, like their search history, for the knife, trying to erase the search history, the ordering the second, trying to order a second knife. There's people out there that believe that the Hyundai was green, that he has a green Hyundai, or the killer's car was a green Hyundai. In fact, we remember, you, me, and Phil remember, from within a couple of weeks, like maybe 3 or 4 weeks, they identified a white Hyundai and the passengers as possible people of interest. They didn't say driver. They said the people in the car. I think they used the term passenger because they had a very bad reproduction from a security camera. But that white Hyundai was identified early on. It wasn't green. There's been so much misinformation out there, you know, because people do react to rumors, and they just start spreading things without double checking. And you know what? That's the world we live in. And all Judge Hippler is going to guarantee to Kohberger is 12 people who are willing to give him a listen to what he has to say, what Ann Taylor has to say. That's it. And I think he's just going to say, that's it. We are going, and we're going to go August 11th. Be ready.
And it couldn't be more apropos, this thumbnail you see on the screen. Enough delay. Get this case to trial. Yeah. Get it going. I don't want to hear any more that they want to stay. They want a continuance. They need more time. She should have asked for more funds. She should have asked for more resources, because it's been 2.5 years, Ann Taylor. And I think we have to also think about, when you talk about more time, we got to think about these two people and the other family members, the parents of Kaylee Gonsalves, Steve Gonsalves, I think his wife is Vicky Gonsalves. And then, of course, we have to think about these 4 people, right? Madison Mogen, Kaylee Gonsalves, Zaina Knodel, and Ethan Chapin. They are the victims to this case. So let's get this case moving. There is no way there should be a continuance. There's no more stalling. It's game time. It's game time. And Ann Taylor, you better be ready, because I think Judge Hippler is going to say, no more stalling. We're going. Pick the jury. August 11th, the trial will start. And you better be ready, Ann Taylor, because there's no more delays. Folks, if you're not subscribed, hit that subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up. Share us with your friends and family. It helps if you hit the like button. And on behalf of myself, Bill Cannon, and Professor Mike Geary, thank you so much for tuning in. Have a great day, everyone, and God bless.
Good day.
One episode just ain't enough.